Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. Spiritual discipline, liberation is stated in two ways. Two types of mukti Vedanta talks about. One is Jivan Mukti, liberation in life. Another one is Krama Mukti, liberation in stages. This Jivan Mukti is also referred as Kaivalya Mukti. Yes. Another one is referred as Krama Mukti. Or sometimes we say referred as Videha Mukti also. So Jivan Mukti, Videha Mukti, or Kaivalya Mukti, or Krama Mukti. So depending on the context, we will be using it in these different words. But essentially there are two. One is you get liberation when you are living. Another one is referred as you get liberation after death. Now, what is that? That is what is explained in this chapter. Chapter 8 of the Bhagavad-gita discusses Krama Mukti, liberation in stages. In all other chapters, Krishna would be referring to Jivan Mukti only. Liberation when he is talking about in all other chapters, he refers only to liberation when you are living. In this chapter, he explained this concept and gets back to Jivan Mukti from 9 onwards. So here, this Krama Mukti is what? For any liberation, whether it is Jivan Mukti or Krama Mukti, you have to go through the spiritual discipline. You have to practice those disciplines in a prescribed manner. So you got to identify what is your personality nature, and then you have to understand the different types of disciplines that we have, and you need to proportion those disciplines to your nature. So you need to do all these things. When you do all this, you will be moving towards liberation, realization. If you get it when you are alive, that's called Jivan Mukti. If you get it after death, that is called Krama Mukti. Now you may ask, what is a proof that I will get realization after death? If you ask, there is no proof. Don't go around to keep searching for proof for that. There's no possibility. There's no proof. Exactly, right? First of all, there is no proof for realization itself. Doesn't matter whether you are, when you are living or after death, doesn't make any difference. Either case, you can't prove realization. Logically, you can't detect realization. In a laboratory, you can't establish. You can't take a man of realization and put all that, electrodes, all over his body. I don't know why all of them do it only at the brain. As though they think, realization is inside the brain somewhere. Because there are some of them who have done that also. They say this is the state of realization. You can't do all that. There's no way you can prove. We get to know about the possibility of realization only from the Shastras. So authority is only the Shastras. Because the Shastras, they say, because the Guru says, it is, it is. There is no way that you can use any other means. There is no other way for us to identify. You can't see God, you can't smell God, you can't taste God. You cannot do any one of them. Nor can you feel God or conceive through your intellect. Not possible. So any other means we don't have. The only possibility left out is whatever they say. Take it or leave it. Full stop. Now, one group takes, one group leaves. Now, we fall into the category of people who subscribe, who have taken it up. So the discussion is between the discussion here is not between the person who has taken up and the person who has not taken up. The discussion is between the person who is willing to take up and the person who has attained. That is the discussion here. The context is this. So it's not a discussion group wherein we debate and they decide. You can't debate here. Take it or leave it. So realization itself we don't know. Then they classify that into two. When you are alive after death. Now here in this chapter, he's explaining what happens after. Why he's explaining that? Because Arjuna asked. If Arjuna has not raised that question, he wouldn't have explained it at all. It is as simple as that. Krishna had no intention of explaining any one of these things. Because Arjuna asked the question and he said, you give me in detailed explanation what happens after death to different people. What all the possibilities? All the possibilities he has been explained. Now here he is moving from verses 23 to 28. He is explaining two parts. Part 1 and part 2. There are two possibilities, he says, after death. So here what we need to understand is, straight away you need to discount in this portion the Jivan Mukta. Okay. The liberated soul, the person who has attained Jivan Mukti, that person is kept outside the equation. So here the discussion is only with the person who is still in samsara. He has not yet got liberated from samsara. So since he is inside samsara, a samsaric person dies. Then Krishna says there are two possibilities, two paths are there. One is referred as the path of the sun, the other one is referred as path of the moon. Don't take literally, the sun path and moon path. There's no such thing. Just a reference for us to understand. Easy reference. Full stop. One path, the path of the sun means path of no return. Path of the moon means the path of the return. So, one group of people who die, they go, they don't come back. Another group of people who die, they go, they come back. This is the idea. Now, I have already told you, we are not going to be discussing in terms of the process of birth, death, reincarnation theory, and all those things here. Okay, don't expect me to be explaining all that here. Right? You have to understand it. If you are not, go through this portion in Vedanta treatise. Law of causation chapter. There he is explaining birth, death, and reincarnation and all that. So go through that. It's explained there. Now we are not going to be explaining the logic of all that. Okay. Now what we understand is there is reincarnation. This is the basic premise. We just accept it as a possibility. And then whole discussion happens. So one group of people go through this, another group of people come back. That is what he is going to explain in this chapter, in this portion, from verses 23 to 28, Krishna is explaining this path of return and path of no return. Right. Coming to that's what he is giving as introduction in verse 23. Yatra kale navrittim avrittim shaiva yogina yata yantitam kalam pakshyami bharatarshava. I will tell you indeed, O Bharatarshava, the time in which yogis depart, never return, and also the time they do return. So here he says, that is the introduction. He says, what I'm going to explain now is this. He says, yogi here means two possibilities are there. One person who is performing spiritual disciplines, another one performing spiritual disciplines in another way. There are two ways in which a spiritual discipline is practiced. Or you can take it as two stages. Right. In the first stage, one person performs a spiritual discipline in one way. Another person performs a spiritual discipline in another way. But both those fellows are in the spiritual. What about those who are not in the spiritual at all, sir? They are not in the discussion at all. So, in the discussion, there are two fellows we have kept outside equation. One who has attained. The one who has attained spiritual enlightenment. We are not discussing about him in this portion. Similarly, we are not discussing about the person who has not launched on the program itself, who has not enrolled for the program. So we have kept out the person who has not enrolled, also the person who is kept outside equation. Like, once you become president of India, you can't contest for election after that. He's kept outside equation. He cannot. And there are a lot of us who never contest for elections. Now, where is a choice? Now, here we are discussing about election means what? Election means we are discussing about people who are contesting. Who are contesting here? The contestants are only two, he says. There are two types of contestants we have. One contestant is the one who is performing unselfish actions. Another person performing unselfish actions without getting involved. A very simple way. First, the easiest way to understand the difference is this. Both are performing unselfish actions only. The first person performs unselfish actions dedicated to a higher ideal cause with involvement. Another one has also taken up a higher ideal, whatever the higher ideal is. Right. Now, everyone need not be taking the same thing. Each one gets inspired with a particular ideal. So, he takes up that particular ideal and he is working towards that ideal, but in the whole process, he is never involved at all. He maintains his objectivity. He is objective towards the very ideal itself, towards the very attainment of that ideal. So, without involvement with reference to the actions, without involvement with reference to the fruit of his actions, all that he is working, striving to reach to that ideal. Equally, the other fellow also working. Only difference is what? The difference is he is totally involved. He is so passionately attached to the action and the fruit. He is so anxious when he is going to be realizing the ideal that he had set for himself. So each one is performing actions like that. Those two is referred as the one who is performing without involvement is referred as the person who is traveling in the path of the sun. Uttarayana. Another one who is also performing unselfish actions with involvement is traveling on the path of the moon. Dakshinayana. So the first one is Uttarayana, path of the sun. Second one is the Dakshinayana, path of the moon. The first path is referring as the path no return. The second one, moon, the path of the moon, you come back. The path of the sun takes you where? Path of the sun takes you right up to Brahmaloka. Straight to Brahmaloka you go. We have discussed all that. Okay. So you have to remember all this. The path of the moon takes you right up to the Swargaloka or Indraloka. So path of the sun takes you to Brahmaloka. The path of the moon takes you to Indraloka. So whatever that loka is. There's a very big question. Will unselfish actions performed disappear? Will unselfish actions performed with involvement not be selfish? No. Then all those people who worked to get independence, all the freedom fighters, you have to classify those people as selfish guys. See, what you need to understand is when you are working for an unselfish cause, yourself is included in that. Yourself is not excluded. When those freedom fighters fought for the freedom of the country, their freedom, their family freedom is also included in that, isn't it? That is why unselfish is greater, bigger. Otherwise, you would be classifying all those people who are working unselfish, also selfish only. That will look fantastic to, intellectually be talking about. That's what I call as Vakra Buddhi. You twist and turn everything and confuse everyone. Finally, nothing comes out. Finally, the fellow will go back, continuing doing this selfish. So he will say what? Sir, unselfish fellow also selfish only. Selfish is also selfish only. Therefore, let me continue my selfishness only. No, why should I struggle to become unselfish? Then we will say what? Sir, unselfish and selfless both are same actually. In fact, unselfish is superior to selfless. Therefore, what I should do? You will say, I will continue to be performing only unselfish. And then you will say what? Unselfish and selfish are one and the same thing. Therefore, what I'm going to do? Continue my selfishness. This is what we are doing in the name of philosophical discussions today. See, that's why so much of YouTube lectures are there. You can listen to all those things, but nothing happens to you. You go on listening. And what is happening to you, sir? Nothing is happening. Why? Because of this confusion only. So be careful. Selfish means I do action only for my benefit. To cater to me, highest one we can go is my family. So my efforts, fruit, all that you have to ask is only this one question. You are working, okay, any action that you do, ask this question, who is the beneficiary of your efforts? If it is going to be only you, maximum your family, that is called a selfish. Any action, I don't care what you do, right? Any action where you perform, put in effort, you slog, you strive, where the beneficiary is not only your family, much more than that. That is unselfish. Wider spectrum. That wider spectrum could be community, it could be country, it could be humanity, it could be anything. I don't care what it is. Right? Don't say my dog, because dog is part of your family. Okay. You can immediately say, "Oh, I am, Jiva Karunya. I have." What are you doing, sir? Buying one glucose biscuit and throwing it to the puppies. I'm not saying don't do it. Okay, do it. But don't think that you have become unselfish because of that. See, why? Because you have started converting that family to, that is why today you cannot be calling them as pet owners. You have to call them as pet parents. You have to convert them to your family. Unless you convert them to your family, you will not be inspired to do anything to them. You see, this is where the problem. That's why we also have to say what? We are all Vedanta family. You see, then you'll say, yeah, I'll do this. We all one family. We all, all Kannadigas are one family. And then you'll say what? All North Karnataka people are one family, South Karnataka people are another family. Unless you convert them into my family, no one beyond that is a beneficiary. Now, the third one is not in the contest at all. This is what I said. Sir, what about the fellow who is performing selfless action? The person who is performing selfless action is not in the purview of each chapter. So here the discussion is only with whom, sir? In unselfish, there is. So one person performs unselfish, getting involved. Another person maintains that objectivity, more or less, but slips here and there. Here and there he gets involved. Right? If you are 100% not involved at all, that is selfless. So he is next category. The fellow who is not performing and no unselfish ideal at all, he is not inside at all. He cannot participate in election, either as a participant or as a voting rights also he doesn't have. You have to turn 18 to be part of, to have a voting right. But you can have PAN card, you can have Aadhaar card, your name will be there in the ration card also, all that you can have. But voting rights you don't have till you turn 18. So here the discussion is between who, sir? Between people who are contesting and those who are voting. Only those fellows. Similarly here, this is only the contest is between a person who is performing purely only unselfish desired activities, meaning unselfish with involvement. Another one, unselfish without involvement more or less, but slips here and there with little involvement. Right. This is one. That is a difference, he says. So which means those who are performing actions, unselfish actions without involvement is called spiritual sadhana. Sadhana means that they are practicing spiritual discipline. Those who are performing unselfish actions with involvement, we refer them as good deeds. Those who perform good actions. Whenever you perform good deed, you are entitled for punya. Okay. Whenever you perform sadhana, you are entitled for realization, liberation. Good deed, you will be shifted from C cell to A cell. Inside prison, they have no better, private room is there with the library. They'll give a library, and there'll be a proper mattress there and all that. And in the C grade cell won't be there. Janta cell, Janta, that is, everyone will be there. About 30, 40 fellows will be there in one room, like that. So good deed, you are entitled to move from this. When you perform sadhana, you are entitled to be released from the prison. To understand the difference. The difference between sadhana and good deed. Okay. And that is why I'm deliberately using these two words. One, a Sanskrit word, another one is English word. Okay. The one who is traveling the path of the sun, who will travel there? The person who has performed the sadhana plus good deed also. Okay. And the path of the moon is for a person who is performing only good deed. So the one who is doing good goes here, the one who is doing here this. So what happens to that person who performs only good sadhana plus good deed? He will go right up to Brahmaloka. In Brahmaloka, what is Brahma doing? Teaching the Vedas, chanting the Vedas, meaning he is teaching Vedanta. He will gain that knowledge from Brahma. He will gain that jnanam. From that jnanam, he gains liberation. So, the path of the sun takes you to Brahmaloka. From Brahmaloka, you gain that knowledge and get to realization. Right? In the path of the moon, where you go to Indraloka. Indraloka, what you get there? You can see all the movies. Any movie you wanted to have an introduction of Indraloka, introduction itself is what? Song. Indra will be always introduced with the song. Someone will come and perform a dance there. Dance and this and that is a fascinating one. Meaning what? They are enjoying life. There is full of enjoyment. Maja life. That is how Indralokas. So what happens? When you perform good deed, what do you get? You get punya. With punya, what happens to your life? You get a life of abundance in terms of youth, in terms of the prosperity, also in terms of enjoyment. So you will have enough material with you. Our problem on earth is only these three. If you have money, doctor says you can't eat this, you can't eat that, you can't eat this, you can't eat anything. Porridge only you should have. Oats porridge without sugar. Sir, can I have honey? No. Yes. Can you do this? In the night you should not have rice. Our genius will ask, idli okay, ba? Say. Yes. Hey. Can't have rice. Another fellow says, idli dosa, okay. No rice, no. No, you can have everything, but what are you going to eat? That's why every father-in-law has a problem with the son-in-law. No father-in-law likes son-in-law. They'll never go together. Why? Because he slogged everything and he has acquired and earned. This fellow simply walks in and takes over. They can't get along. That frustrating it is. Suppose if you have this and that also, then your lifespan is only what? In Indraloka you go, your lifespan is so big, almost, never ending it is. Also you are abundantly available and perennially you are youth. Maja life that is, everything is available to you for you to enjoy. There is no obstruction at all for your enjoyment. No disturbance. Everything is available and you enjoy. That is what you get there. And then what happens? How long you will be there? You will be there till the period of your punya gets exhausted. Once your punya gets exhausted, what happens? It's like you bribe that, the jail authorities. Till you are giving them, they will put you in an A cell. Once you stop, what happens? They'll throw you back to this one. Like that it is. See? Don't stretch example beyond just an example, okay? I'm not saying the jails, they do it. I'm just giving as an example, that's all. What is that path? This path that takes you is referred as Uttarayan, Suklapaksha, light, indicated by light. The other path is indicated by darkness. The first path takes you towards the illuminator, knowledge, the path of the sun. The path of the moon is ignorance, blinded with rituals. So the one in an orthodox interpretation, explanation, it becomes a little easier also. You are performing only rituals. Path of the moon. You perform rituals. Along with that, you practice upasana also. If you are only karmi, you are traveling in the path of the moon. You are a karmi and also an upasaka. You are traveling in the path of the sun. You go to Brahmaloka, and from Brahmaloka, you get to realization. There are two paths. This entire portion is just going to be explaining what is the path of the sun, what is the path of the moon. This is the path of the sun, this is the path of the moon. This is the path of the sun, this is the path of the moon. That's all he's going to explain. So it becomes easy. It is. And that's a great question. If the first path takes one to Brahmaloka, it is still not a path of no return. Right? No. Brahmaloka, you go, you gain that knowledge, you get to realization. So you don't come back again to next, birth is not there for you. But are you realized? Now you are not realized. This is where the problem is. Now, how do you know when a person dies? Whether he is going to Indraloka or Naraka, or he is going here, or he is a realized one. We have no way to identify because possibilities are four there. The person who dies can go to hell, may go to heaven, come back, may go to heaven and not come back, may not be going anywhere. He will simply dissolve, disappear. He just escapes. Now, These four, of the four, what is going to happen to the person? Who knows? We don't know. But the four chances are there. In the four, the first and the fourth one, we are taking out of equation. Right now, the focus of discussion is between these two people. The one who goes to heaven. In heaven, there are grades. So in heaven, we have grades. The highest one is Brahmaloka. There what happens? You go to Brahmaloka, there you gain that knowledge, you don't come back. There is a possibility a person who gets tremendous punya, okay, he's entitled for parole. He will go out. And then what? Once that is done, what is going to happen? Come back. The person who is going on parole is different from a person who is getting released from jail, isn't it? Same way here. The person who goes is a possibility. You may misunderstand a person who is going on parole is also escaped. And usually, when you take a person, there's a good chance of that guy escaping from there. And it's easy to escape from, when you are in parole. Then that's why they don't give so easily to everyone. So you need a tremendous one. Same way here. The person will go, come back. You can even go and touch Brahmaloka because of your punya. That doesn't guarantee anything, please. But generally what happens is a person who goes to Brahmaloka means he will not come back. But there are certain exceptional cases where he will go to Brahmaloka and come back also. But that's more of an exception. That's not the rule. The rule is this. So we are discussing the rule here. The rule is you get punya, you will go. What amount of punya you should have done for you to go to Brahmaloka and come back also? That is humanly not possible, theoretically possible. But in practice, is it ever possible by a person to do it, sir? Not possible. Because you need to have done tremendous spiritual disciplines. You slip here and there with few desirable, unselfish action. Purely unselfish action. Pure selfish. Pure selfless. Jivan Mukti. Lot of selfless slipped in here and there with few unselfish. Krama Mukti. Brahmaloka, then Mukti, Krama Mukti. Lot of unselfish action. Swargaloka, come back. Path of the moon. Right. Then purely selfish action. Go to hell and come back. This is the equation. So here, the fourth one and the first one we have kept out of equation for this discussion from verse 23 to 28. So in 23, he introduces, I'm going to be explaining to you this part. Now, verse 24. Agnir Jyoti Rapaha Shukla Shanmasa Uttaraya Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vido Jana. Fire, light, daytime, the bright fortnight, the 6 months of the northern path of the sun. There departing, the knowers of Brahman go to Brahman. Now, here Brahman is not realization. They go to Brahmaloka, from there they reach to realization. So that's why that this Brahma Vido Jana. They go to Brahmaloka, from there they get to Brahman. Who? This is the example. Agnihi, Jyoti, light. Aha, day. Shukla Paksha. That Paksha is, the month is divided into two. Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. There are two. That is Shukla Paksha. And that Shanmasa of Uttarayana period. The Uttarayana period is the movement of the sun. We all believe generally sun rises on the east. No. Strictly speaking, they say no, it is not. It is northeast, east, southeast, depending on the degree. In Delhi, the degree is different. In Bangalore, the degree is different. In Chennai, the degree is different. Now, each place, the degree will be different. Okay. So, depending on the position. But generally, there is a thing. How they calculate is like this. That's the period we have, from this Makara Shankaranti period. It starts to the July 16. This January 14 to July 16. And sometimes they say December 21, there is that and all. So, those details, you check with this one. That's none of our concern, in fact. All that you need to understand is it's not just, talking. What they refer is the movement of the sun. Assuming actually the sun is stationary, we are moving. Okay. But from our point of view, it will appear as though sun is moving, we are stationary. Okay. So assuming that we are stationary, the sun has a movement. It just moves. It goes like this. This is how we will be observing the movement of the sun. So when the sun moves from the south towards the north, that is Uttarayana period. Dakshinayana period is from the north towards the south when it comes. See, so there is exact east is, I think, somewhere in May or something happens. In January, April, May, somewhere it happens. Exact, position it comes. So that keeps varying from place to place and all that. But I don't remember exactly the date and all that. There's an exact east to this comes only on that particular day. So the movement of this is referred as this Uttarayana period and Dakshinayana period. And Uttarayana is also referred as Punyakala, Dakshinayana also referred as Punyakala. So don't ask which is the Punyakala, which is the Papakala. There's no such thing. Both are referred as Punyakala only. See, it's not that. It's just the movement, that's all. You have to understand. The fire, light, then daytime. See, if you see all this, they are all referring to brightness. You can see. See, all this means awareness with alertness. That's all. That fire, light, daytime, and this Northern path is why? Because the day is more during Uttarayana period. Night is less, 24 hours. Daytime will be more. That is why India is referred as Bharat. Reveling in light. Because we have such an even lighting. No country has that luxury that we have. I'm not talking about inner, light and all that. That is a different thing. But I'm just talking about actually as geographically, if you take itself, there's such a pleasant one we have. Now you go to Canada, right? There you go. You're finished. 3 months you can't come out. If you have to come out, you have to keep cleaning half an hour before you want to decide to come outside. Because you have to clean the car. The full snow. You have to put it inside. and you have to switch on the car and keep the heater on 10 minutes before for you to come out. So much. England and these places and all you go, it's not, sun is there, but still you don't. Same way you have this side you come also, it is not. In this country, the light is so evenly spread. It never goes extreme. It is so even here. So comfortable it is. So pleasant we have. In that we say this Uttarayana period, daytime is more. In Dakshinayana period, night time will be more. That's all. So that's the only difference. So that's why he adds this also here. So what happens to these people said? This is the one. So here all he is referring to is this. Departing, the one who is departing during these periods, where with the fire, with the light, the bright fortnight, that's why we have this idea of, burning the body. We burn the body. As soon as a person dies in our culture, we simply burn it, which is more, most effective way, they say. Particularly the doctors and all, they say it's better, sir. Because, corona is a big problem. So it's better to burn. These people understood much early. Burn it. What's the big deal? You have to do all this. So the person who is departing during this one Brahmaloka, he goes. And then he gets it. What is Brahmaloka, sir? Tremendous enjoyment. Sir, enjoymently realization. I never understood that concept. Only Rajinikanth helped me to understand. Brahmaloka, I want to remember. Rajinikanth only can explain. There's a movie by Rajinikanth called Arunachalam. I recommend that to everyone. Movie, must watch. Very spiritual. Kramamukti people can watch that. Very interesting one there. The father will put a condition, he is actually, he is living in a village, his boy, but actually, his father is one of the richest man in the world. He had over about, 30,000 crores. This when the movie released. Okay. The movie released about, 15 years back. 15, 20 years back it is. So at that time, 30,000 crores was a property value that fellow had. 30,000 crores. So the father has written a will. In the will he says, you will get 30,000 crores, provided you spend 30 crores in 1 month. He said, I repeat, not earn. Okay. He gives 30 crores to him and gives him a challenge. If you spend entire 30 crores, I like the deal. You spend that 30 crores in 30 days, you can't be investing and all that. You have to actually spend. You can't say, I'm going to buy a shoe. Because if you buy a shoe, it becomes your asset now. So by end of the month, you should be having zero with you. Then you will get 30,000 crores. Ask my father, I asked. Father, I wish I had a father like that. Amazing, but the whole movie, he struggles to spend it actually. He didn't know what to do. The 30 crores. Because you have to spend, you just have to indulge only. There's no other option. By indulgence, how can you acquire, man? Arunachalam says possible. That is called Kramamukti. The father should do what? All property goes to you, man. Take it. That is called Jivan Mukti. No conditions. Not that you have to spend this, that, and all. 100 of conditions you put, and then you say, I'm going to give you. Useless. That is. But it's a very interesting one. It says, Kramamukti is your realization gets deferred. You can inherit that entire property deferred 1 month. You can imagine that, after, inheriting the whole property, 30,000 crores, what he does is a very interesting one. He just, gives it off to Prime Minister's Corona. This one, 30,000 crores he transfers and walks out. Arunachalam does, not Rajinikanth. Okay. The movie is doing that. Not in, Rajinikanth will not do that. Arunachalam does. He gives the entire property and he just walks out. I don't want anything. And all that I want is one Rudraksha. He just takes one Rudraksha and goes. If I'm allowed to take. He takes the Rudraksha from his father and walks out. But he has to inherit it. How? There is a defer. Now, Brahmaloka is what? Brahmaloka is not that, because we believe Brahmaloka means I'll be attending the lecture all the time. My God, it's like mathematics class. PhD one, I have to struggle to get it. Our PhD guide who has one head itself is torturing us so much. Imagine Brahma has 4 heads. How much he will torture? We torture us or what? No, man. 30 crores will be given to you just to spend. Pocket money. Just spend it, man. That is what Brahmaloka life is. Sometimes you will be wondering, I wish I can go through that process itself instead of direct. That is why we say, one is no conditions. Straight away you inherit 30,000 crores. Second one is, you get the 30,000 only if you spend that 30 crores. If you are not out, conditions apply. That's where the difference is, he says. Oh, they're departing, the knowers of Brahman. Go to Brahman. Knowers of Brahman mean those who wanted to get to realization, get to realization. Those who are interested in realization, they get. So who are those people? Those who have been performing karma, performing selfless activities. Along with that, they have done certain unselfish actions also. Or in the orthodox languaging, we will say it is the ritualistic person who is performing all the rituals and karma and all that he is doing. Plus, he is practicing this Aguna Brahma Upasana also. Then he goes to Brahmaloka, he gains knowledge from Brahma and practices Nirguna Brahma Upasana and gets to realization. That is verse 24. Now verse 25. Dhumo Ratris Tata Krishna Shimmasa Dakshinaya Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. Smoke, nighttime, dark fortnight, the 6 months of the southern path of the sun. There obtaining the lunar light, the yogi returns. He is also referred as yogi. Very interesting. The first person also yogi, this one also yogi. There the yogi returns. Tatra. Yes, there. There means the person who has taken that road, taken that path. There are 2 highways are there. One highway with light, another highway is no light. That's all. Maybe lamps will be there, but it doesn't work. Whatever the case is, but it is the dark. All around is darkness. Smoke, nighttime, fortnight, 6 months of the southern path. Dhumaha, Ratri, Krishna Paksha, and this Dakshinayan, the movement of this. Now, all this when he says, what you need to understand is those who are doing that upasana on that particular devatas, the presiding deities of all that, There is a presiding deity for Dhuma. There is a presiding deity of Ratri Devata. And then this Krishna Paksha Devata and Dakshinayana Devata. There are Devatas for that. And there's the detailed description is given in the Upanishads. Upanishads give details. Like here, Krishna gives only few. You go to this, Chandogya, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there he gives an exhaustive list, extensive list of the different Devatas who are the presiding deities of each one. So the spiritual languaging is always indirect. Remember, it is not direct. So the indirect one means you can understand those indirect things in two ways. One, you can understand those devotional people interpret as Devatas. Right? The intellectual fellow will interpret it as what? Smoke, nighttime, dark fortnight, the 6 months, all this is interpreted by him as ignorance. The first one is interpreted as knowledge, understanding, awareness, alertness. Here it is interpreted as this. So the yogi. Now, who is a yogi in this verse? Yogi means a person who is performing only the rituals. Only performing rituals in that orthodox sense. In a liberal sense, he is performing only unselfish actions. No selfless action. Only unselfish. So what has happened to him, sir? He goes to the heaven and he will come back. Right? A true seeker is one who will be performing all these rituals, all those things he will do, but he performs with a detached attitude, exactly like the actor on the stage. He will perform, he will go through very many characters, very many scenes, very many dialogues, all that he will go through, but no involvement. Now here, this person performing on the stage, but he is totally involved in that, totally lost. He assumes himself to be that character. So he doesn't understand that I am that actor who is performing this character. That with that understanding, if you are performing, then you are a true seeker. Without that understanding, if you are doing this, now beyond this 24 and 25 is the Kaivalya Mukti attained by this seeker, the true seeker. So the first one is this, second one is this. So 2, 24 and 25. Now 26. Shukla Krishna Gati Hete Jagata Shashvate Mati Ekayaya Anta Vrittim Anyaya Vartate Puna. These bright and dark paths of the world are verily deemed eternal. By the one, a man goes not to return, by the other, he returns again. This is interesting. Now he gave two paths. One, the path of return, another, the path of no return. Now he says, both these paths are said to be eternal. Jananmate. This is deemed to be eternal. Ate is thought, said to be, thought of. What are they, sir? Shashvata, eternal. They are deemed to be eternal. They are said to be eternal one. Deemed to be eternal in the sense they are not really eternal. mean they have the appearance of eternity. That's about it, not really speaking. What are they? There are two paths. The bright path, Shukla Paksha. There, the bright path. What happens there, sir? Their realization gets deferred. Since that realization gets deferred, now we have to justify. Okay, how are we to understand they are deemed to be eternal? Both the paths are appearing to be eternal. To whom? The fellow who is traveling in the path of the sun, he feels the path of the sun to be eternal. And the person who is going through the path of the moon also feels the path of the moon to be eternal. Unending. Eternal means unending. How do you explain it? What is the logic of that, sir? On what basis Krishna can afford to claim that? Yes, that's what we need to study now. That's why this verse is very interesting. The first, 24, 25 is only the description. There's nothing, no philosophy there. The philosophy is only in verse 26. Yes. They're deemed to be eternal. What is a deemed, sir? What is the path? The path of the sun we'll take first. Right. In the path of the sun, what is happening, sir? Realization is getting deferred. Realization getting deferred to whom? To that person who had aspired to get realization in this life itself. In this life itself, he has been striving to get to realization. That is why he is practicing spiritual disciplines. Right? But he slipped into unselfish. He's been practicing only selfless actions, but here and there he performed one or two unselfish actions. Because of that, power of his selfless actions slipping into unselfish. He is entitled to go to Brahmaloka. And Brahmaloka, we have already seen what is the duration of Brahmaloka and all that. 1 day of Brahma and this one, that one, you got to multiply. 1 day of Brahma is 4.32 million years. And then 1 night. So 4.32 plus 4.32, 8.64 million years. Sorry, billion years. Not million, sorry, billion years. Because 4.32 million is Kali Yuga only. Right. So what is 1 day of Brahma Azarna? Kali Yuga, then what is it? Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga put together. The double of Kali Yuga is Dwapara Yuga. 3 times of Kali Yuga is Treta Yuga. 4 times of Kali Yuga is Satya Yuga. Right. So Satya Yuga, so which means 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, 10. So 4.32 million becomes 4.32 billion. Then plus 4 point, that is daytime, that is nighttime. So 8.64 billion years, 1 day. Like that, he has 365 days. Like that, he has 100 years. So 8.64 billion years multiplied by 365 multiplied by 100 is the number of years. Okay. You have to wait for you to get realization. You tell that to, and how you will be. For that, you got to remember Arunachalam movie. Oh, I have to wait like that. Don't worry, man. Maja life there. 30 crores. 1 day, you have to spend 1 crore per day. Imagine. Maja sir, life. Now you can't say I'm going to buy, a Ferrari car I'll buy. Then it becomes asset. No. Enjoy only. What you enjoy? You hire one private jet, you hire this, hire that, all that you spend, maja, tremendous joy you can have. You get that much of value there. But that will be felt by this person as eternal. Why, sir? It will appear to him. Why? Is because what he wants is to get back to the self. And he is still separated from that. That pangs of separation will make him feel Brahmaloka painful. To him, that will be painful. Like Arunachalam felt, spending 30 crores is painful. And what is your problem, man? It's not that your 30 crores pochna. Oh my God, 30 crores will be lost. No. You spend 30 crores, you get 30,000 crores. You gain only. By spending, you gain there. It's unbelievably patient. But for Arunachalam, very difficult to understand this. You spend so much, you enjoy, but that enjoyment will be experienced by him as pain. So Brahmaloka will be experienced by him as pain. Why? Because he is suffering from the disease, a particular disease. Disease of what? Pangs of separation from his beloved. That pain, he is still separated. That separation makes him feel that time so much. As it is that much of period of time. And even anywhere you go through a painful experience, the time stretches. If the class is so boring to you, then the class will appear like what? Jamu Mitai, we say. You just go on, stretching. It will never end. Stretching, sir. Now imagine this 1 hour itself is stretching to you. You can imagine Brahmaloka. If that feels, therefore he says what? It is Shashvatam. But that Shashvatam is not real Shashvatam, man. Why? It is deemed to be Shashvatam. Ananmat. Jnananmate, he says. It is deemed to be. Therefore, it is not really speaking, but it will appear to him as though. Now it makes sense. Yeah, correct. This is for the person who is traveling the path of the sun. Then let's see, look into the person who is traveling the path of the moon. Who is the fellow? He is performing actions, rituals with total involvement. He is a ritualist. Orthodox. Liberal interpretation is he is performing unselfish, desire-ridden activities. Selfish, desire-ridden, different category. Okay. Now we are discussing about a person here who is performing unselfish, desire-ridden. Unselfish involvement means unselfish, desire-ridden action. He is performing unselfish, desire-ridden action. And what is the nature of action, desire? Nature of desire is insatiable. More and more you feed the desire, more and more it will want. That's why it is compared to fire. You can add wood, logs and logs you can add. More you add, more it will consume, and it will become bigger. Then he is capable of consuming even more. It will keep growing. And what is the cycle of birth and death? The cycle of birth and death is directly connected to your desires. So, unselfish, desire-driven activities will generate more and more desires. Why? Because desires never get satiated. So, the thirst keeps on increasing. Like when you feel thirsty, you drink Pepsi, Coke. And you drink that temporarily it appears to have quenched, but essentially what they do, sir, they trigger you to feel thirst more. How? Dehydrate you. Drinking that dehydrates. Thereby, you feel the need to drink more of it. So you'll drink more. So you'll drink more. This is what your desires do. Desires. You just go on and on and on. So more and more of desired and unselfish actions you perform, it makes the desire more stronger, for which you have to take again and again birth. So the cause and effect doesn't seem to end at all. There is no end to that cause and effect. Cause of birth is desires. Effect is birth. Desire is a cause, effect is birth. When you take birth, what are you going to do? By the pressure of desire, you will be performing more unselfish desired in action. More unselfish desired in action, more the desires get stronger. More the desires get stronger, more the number of desires increases, more the number of janmas gets increased. So you take birth, you perform action, desire gets strengthened. That vicious cycle, one leading to the other, is unending chain of cause effect. Therefore, it is Shashvatam. But is it really Shashvatam, sir? No. It's not really Shashvatam. It is apparently Shashvatam. So those who go there, they go there. Those who come here, they come here. Okay. These bright and dark paths of the world. Now remember, it's a very important one to understand here. Because when you read this verse, he says, the person who is dying at the night, at the smoke, with this, Krishna Paksha, during the Dakshinayana period, those people go to take to path of the moon. Okay, now read that verse 24 and 25 again. Right, just read that verse. I'll just read that, what is the verse we have here. Verse 24, fire, light, daytime, bright fortnight. Anyone who dies during with this, he takes the path of the sun. Okay? Verse 24. Verse 25. Smoke, nighttime, dark fortnight, 6 months of the southern path, the Dakshinayana. He takes to the path of the moon, he goes to heaven and comes back. So this is part of the return, that is part of the no return. Oh. Apo Uttarayana period, night time if a fellow dies. Uttarayana is for 6 months, no? Okay. Now, Lord Yama is confused. Because verse 24 says, because it is Uttarayana period, he should be taken through the path of the sun. And night time, he said in verse 25, therefore, he has to be taken to the path of the moon. Now the fellow has died. When during the Uttarayana Kala, in the night time, Apo, you see that? That is why you should be careful when you are reading these verses. This sort of scriptures, when you read, be careful. Because if you finish, same way other time also, no? That Krishna Paksha, Sukla Paksha comes, no? Right? The Paksha comes there, the day comes, the night comes. All this is permutation, combination is there. Therefore, what you need to understand, remember which path you would be taken to is not determined by the time of your death. Remember that. Because lot of people, and lot of them quote, Bhishma also. Bhishma waited for Uttarayana, the Kala to come. Only then he will go to, please. Uttarayana Kala is not that. He was not waiting for Uttarayana. It's just an excuse. He was waiting for something else. What was he waiting for? Essentially, he was waiting for Krishna to come. Waiting for Krishna to appear. In the presence of Krishna, he says, I have to meet you, man. I have to discuss. I have to see you. That desire to see Krishna was his real thought. Nothing to do with Uttarayana and all that. Now we think, he was waiting for Uttarayana period to come and then only he will die. Otherwise, he will not. Otherwise, I will not. Nothing of that. When Krishna is standing there, Krishna can grant, straight away moksha to him. What is the problem for him to waiting for Brahma to appear and then supreme authority standing here, Krishna? Why he has to be asking for Brahma's permission? He can get that knowledge directly from Krishna here. Why he has to go to Brahmaloka to listen to the lectures of Brahma? Krishna is there. No, that's not the point. That is what is referred by him as Uttarayana. Uttarayana, when he says the presence of Krishna is called Uttarayana as far as he is concerned. So don't take to literally to be the time of your death does not determine the direction, the path that you would be going. Then what is determining factors are? It is what is your lifestyle. What are you doing during your life? How you are performing your actions, that determines. Now people read those two things and then they think, oh, yes. Brahma Sutra dismisses this possibility completely. And he says, don't read it like that. You are supposed to read it in another way, he says. So don't understand this, these bright and the dark parts of the world verily deemed eternal. By one, a man goes, not to return. By one means what? Not the duration, not the time. Don't take it literally. That's why he said, spiritual literatures should not be studied literally. It has a hidden meaning. Hidden meaning is what? Hidden meaning, if you are a devotional personality, which Devata you worship. And if you are an intellectual personality, you understand those two as two different things. One is with awareness, with alertness, you live your life. Another one, in ignorance, you keep performing your actions. Then it is a different one. That's all it is. So don't take it as, literally they are the same thing. So be careful there. Verse 27. Naite Sruti Partha Jana Yogi Muhyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. Knowing these two paths, O Partha, no yogi is deluded. Therefore, O Arjuna, be steadfast in yoga at all times. Knowing these two paths, no yogi is deluded. Now, this yogi, the person who pursues his yogi, pursues what? The person who is understood, who is pursuing the self. He is not deluded, means he is not confused. There's no confusion. No. He understands very clearly what? If I perform unselfish, decided an action, I go, come back, go, come back, go, come back. If I perform selfless actions, slip into few unselfish actions, I will go, but my realization gets deferred. No deluded means what? Rankage. You are not confusion. He says what? I can't afford to go through the path of the sun, nor I can afford to go through the path of the moon. I don't want both. I want direct. That is the yogi here. He is a wise fellow. He is a brilliant guy who says he is not deluded. If you say, I will take to the path of the moon or I will take to the path of the sun, if you say, you are a deluded fellow. Having understood what is the path of the sun, what is path of the moon, what is the only conclusion you should come to? The only conclusion you should come to is, let me be steadfast in performing my spiritual sadhana. Let me be steadfast in the path of selfless action. Let me dedicate all my actions to realization so that I can avoid both these paths and go straight to realization. That is what is referred here as he is not deluded. Otherwise, we think as what? If you choose between the two, if you say that I'm going to make a choice between this or that, a deluded fellow will make a choice. He says, an intelligent fellow will not make the choice. Why? He says, both are deemed to be eternal. They are not real eternal. They are not shashwata. Both are limited. Therefore, he says what? Sir, you have not understood my question itself, is what the student will say. The teacher says, do you want to have this or that? You go to a house. You say, I'm feeling thirsty. Can I get something to drink? Immediately that lady asks, you would like to have tea or coffee? You say what? I want water. Isn't it? Now, when you're feeling thirsty, you are asking for what actually? You are asking for water. You're not asking for tea or coffee. Let me have water first, and then let me have tea or coffee. Doesn't matter. But first, what you should drink. That is a fellow who is not deluded. That is the yogi he's talking about. That is a real fellow. Other fellows are useless. So in essence, what he says is, the fellow who is going through the path of the sun and the fellow who is going through the path of the moon, no big difference between the two. Both are useless. He is rejecting both. Actually, that is called non-deluded. Yoga. So the choice is not that. The choice is not heaven or Karma Mukti. No. I want Jivan Mukti. I want realization now. I'm asking for realization now. You are saying later or never. Make a choice between later or never. No, I want it now. That is clarity, he said. That is what is indicated here. Knowing these two paths, no yogi is deluded. So, Arjuna, what you need to understand, forget the 8th chapter. Because all discussion in the 8th chapter is between what? The choice is between heaven and Karma Mukti. Heaven, Karma Mukti. Heaven, Karma Mukti. He says, if you are a wise fellow, understanding this Karma Mukti, heaven and all that, he will say what? Krishna is establishing the need for the 9th chapter, now itself. He says, continue, man. We should continue with the next chapter. So, thank God, we have employment. Otherwise, imagine, you make a choice. Sir, we have chosen between the two paths. I think I prefer, path of the moon. If you say, I prefer path of the sun, then he say, out. Say, I don't want both these paths. No coffee, no tea. I want water. Then you go to this phase. Continuing, verse 28. Vedeshu yajneshu tapaschu saiva dhaneshu yat punya phalam pratishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti champion. Whatever meritorious fruit is assigned to Vedas, sacrifices, austerities, and also to gifts, the yogi raises above all this by having known this and goes to the supreme primeval abode. Now, all this is spiritual disciplines. Meritorious fruits assigned to the Vedas, meaning study of the Vedas. Study of Vedas means Vedanta study, yajna, sacrifices, tapas, austerity that you do, dhana, the charity that you do. All these are various spiritual disciplines. These are the fundamental spiritual discipline means these things. Study of the Vedas, Swadhyaya, and then you have to perform yajna, and then you have to perform tapas, and then dhana. So when you do all this, this is called spiritual disciplines. If you practice the spiritual disciplines as an end in itself, out. You understand that all the spiritual disciplines are means for me to get. Yeah. Now, you can't do away with these disciplines, remember, no doubt. You can't, grow spiritually without these factors. You see, you can't go anywhere. Now, you can't say, I will skip yajna, sir. That is not possible. I will skip dhanam, sir. Can I get it? No. Can I do only dana and get it? That is also not possible. You have to practice all these disciplines integrated. This is spiritual discipline is an integrated course. You have to do them together. Together according to your, station, position, this, that, all those things. But essentially what he says here is, these spiritual disciplines you practice as an end in itself or as a means. See, life is like this. This side is terrestrial, transcendental. Now, spiritual discipline is to take you from here to there. Okay. Now, all this is here. Swadhyaya and yajna, dhana, tapa, all this is this side. All this is terrestrial. All this is terrestrial means all this is finite. Any amount of finite efforts that you put in cannot take you to that infinite. But at the same time, only through this finite, what is going to happen? The finite effort is not to take you there. The finite effort is to knock down the division. Once the division is removed, what happens? So this effort is not to get there. Effort is to knock off this. What is that is dividing line? The dividing line is your ignorance. So this is not to get to realization. This is a means to that end. They are not directly the end. Directly it will not take you to the end, but it is a means. So you take to the spiritual disciplines as a means, not an end. There, you will not fall into the path of the sun or the path of the moon. Direct, straight you go to realization. Straight away you will inherit the 20,000 crores. Right. With this we conclude the chapter. Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad bhagavadgita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Akshara Brahma Yogo Nama Ashtamo. We have the tradition of reading the first verse because we are not complete in the study. We think we are just beginning to understand. So just as a mark of it, we read the first verse. Arjuna Vacha Kim Tat Brahma kimatyatma, kim karma purushottam, adibhudam cha kim proktam, adidevam kimuchyate. This we complete 8th chapter.